Alright, welcome to Foodsafe Level 1. Throughout your Foodsafe course, you will learn about an introduction to Foodsafe, food services, illness and injury, receiving and storing foods, preparing foods, serving foods, and cleaning. The goals of the program are to train individuals to become responsible food handlers by using safe food handling methods and preparation techniques, and to promote worker health and safety. Throughout this program, we will emphasize food safety in a fast-paced industry, encourage the prevention of foodborne illness, protection of the public and workers from harm. We'll learn how to apply safe procedures for receiving, storing, preparing, and presenting food. We'll learn how to reduce common errors in handling potentially hazardous foods. We will create awareness of food hazards and techniques for reducing risks of food injury and illness. So the benefits to taking this program are there's a standardized program and certification, so an employer will understand exactly what you say, what you mean when you say I have my food safe. Workers are able to upgrade their skills, practice safety, and face less injury. Employers know that you are properly trained and are knowledgeable in food safe. They are also then able to reduce job-related injuries and illnesses. Customers receive safe food with a reduction of contamination, and they know they can trust the people that are serving them their food. Alright, Unit 1. Key learning points for Unit 1 are going to be the top 10 improper food handling practices, the top workplace safety hazards, risks and consequences, responsibilities, and a safe food. The top 10 improper food handling practices include improper cooling, which is when food has taken too long to go through the danger zone and get to a proper cooling temperature where bacteria can no longer multiply. Advanced preparation, so the food was made too far in advance and bacteria had too much time to multiply. An infected person who cross-contaminated food with bacteria that was growing in themselves. Inadequate heating for hot holding, so not bringing that food up past the danger zone up to the top temperature where bacteria is killed so that any bacteria that may have multiplied is removed. Improper hot holding, so making sure that the food is at a proper temperature so bacteria cannot grow or not left at that temperature for long. Contaminated raw foods or ingredients, so raw foods are drip or are not cleaned up after properly and contaminate the food after them. An unsafe source, so purchasing food from a source which has not been properly vetted by the government, so they could potentially cause lots of harm. The use of leftovers that have had enough time to grow bacteria, cross-contamination, and inadequate cooking. So a real-life improper cooling case. 1,364 children became ill with Staphylococcus food poisoning from chicken salads eaten at 16 schools. The cooked chicken was not cooled rapidly enough because it was stored in a 12-inch deep layer. So the chicken in the middle did not cool quickly enough, which is where the Staphylococcus bacteria was able to grow and was able to make people sick. If you notice the pictures at the bottom, the improper cooling, there's lots and lots of chicken stacked up there, so it's going to take a really long time for the stuff in the middle to cool down. Whereas in the proper cooling picture, it's a single layer of chicken. That chicken's going to cool down with plenty of time, and the bacteria will not have enough time to multiply. Top workplace safety hazards. These hazards are things that you may encounter in a workplace that could cause you injury and loss of hours. So the first one, we're going to look at injuries from equipment and knives, etc. So that's either not being trained properly or accidentally hurting yourself with something like that. Burns and scalds, so burns from the oven or scalds from hot water. Slips and falls. Slips and falls usually occur if the floor hasn't been cleaned properly, or if a mat is rolled up, or if there's something on the floor that you could trip over. Injuries from lifting and carrying. So this is just not being conscientious of how you're lifting. Chemical and biological hazards, and other hazards, repetitive motion, violence, or transportation. Workplace safety hazards, a real case equipment injury. The owner of a pasta company was placing ingredients in the pasta machine. She reached into the hopper. The sleeve of her blouse became entangled with the rotating mixing arm, and her hand was broken. So in this case, the machine should have been turned off, or she should have had her sleeves pulled up so there was no chance of her getting caught. Risks and consequences. So risks in any employment situation are to workers, employers, and customers. These are the three groups of people that could potentially face a risk when they're working. Consequences of some risks could be legal action, physical, so being hurt, emotional, professional, or financial. And all of these different kinds of consequences can happen to all those different people who may be taking risks. Consequences, a real-life case. Hundreds of cases of E. coli, including the deaths of 4 children, were linked to undercooked beef at a hamburger chain. A franchise owner stated, "Frankly, at first I didn't grasp how serious the impact might be. Then the first child died. It was horrendous. My life, my business, my career was going down the toilet. I was scared to death." Over the next 2 years, the chain lost $138 million. So the three groups of people taking risks, the employees, the employer, and the customer, all three of those people were affected. And they were all affected physically, emotionally, and financially in some way. So physically, people got sick. Emotionally, people were hurt and upset because people got sick. And then financially, so if the restaurants were closed down, the employees lost their job. The employers lost their source of income as well because their restaurant was closed. And then the people who were sick, they lost time from work, they lost their hospital expenses, everything like that. All right, so in any job, you have specific responsibilities to make sure that you keep yourself safe. So in a restaurant circumstance, those include practicing safe food handling, following safe work procedures, using personal protective equipment, reporting hazards, accidents, and injuries, refraining from dangerous conduct, ensuring the ability to work is not impaired, and refuse to work any job with undue risk. So you have responsibilities to your customers. You also have responsibilities to yourself. You need to make sure that you're keeping yourself healthy as well as keeping your customers healthy. Your employer also has a set of responsibilities. So your employer should develop a food-safe plan. They should provide written cleaning and sanitation plans. They should provide worker training and orientation. They should provide supervision and regularly inspect the workplace. They should provide first aid equipment and service. They should provide adequate personal protective equipment. They should establish a health and safety program. And they should establish safe work procedures. So all of these things are things that you should expect from your employer. And if you feel that any of these are being neglected, you should and always should speak up and make sure that you're doing things properly to keep your customer safe and that you have what you need to keep yourself safe. Okay, a food safety plan is a plan that your employer should put together. The food safety plan should include things like reviewing the steps of a recipe, assessing any hazards from a recipe or piece of equipment, identifying the critical steps in a recipe or in cleaning, stating the critical limits, the monitor, and correct problems. These are things that your employer should have in place for you when you start working.